Guys, I woke up this morning and I just kind of laid there thinking to myself, one win away from making the NBA Finals. We have never, as a franchise, been this close before. Last night, the Toronto Raptors took on the Milwaukee Bucks in the Pfizer Forum Arena in Game 5, and they came out with a W after a fantastic performance by, yes, I'm going to say it, Fred VanVleet, Kawhi Leonard, Pascal Siakam on the defensive end, and Nick Nurse. Now that would be minimizing everyone else that contributed, but these individuals were some of the key standout figures in last night's win. And boy, oh boy, guys, it did not look to be a win after the first quarter. Now, I wasn't too nervous, but it was a little bit of, I was a little bit concerned. So we go to the quarter recaps, right? First quarter, Nick Nurse is forced to go to the three-guard lineup quickly after Pascal gets tacked on with a early second foul. That basically was a wrong call. I think he got flagged for an offensive foul when he was trying to take a blocking foul. But it should have been a charge. Didn't call it. Whatever, right? But because of that, Nick Nurse is kind of forced to go to this three-guard lineup. And I've been asking myself ever since Philadelphia happened, and in multiple videos that I've done, why in the hell does he rely on this three-guard lineup so much? And I haven't been able to find the answer, but I think finally I have some sort of I've been able to deduce the logic behind it. And I'm not gonna flame the three-guard lineup too much because Toronto's offense has seemed to change over the past 3 games to adopt and work with this three-guard lineup. So if you can change the offense to work with it, then I have nothing to say. Then I'm gonna then good job, right? But like I say, Nick Nurse forced to go to that three-guard lineup, and I noticed immediately the Bucks did make some adjustments this game. Don't let all the talk shows try to fool you and shit like that, right? They can be informative. Most of the time they're just satire. I mean, let's be real here, but they can be somewhat informative with their hot takes. They did leave out the fact that the Bucks did make adjustments, and what I mean by this is the Bucks are attacking, at least in the first quarter they were, to quite a successful degree. They are attacking Kyle Lowry past the half court. Like, they're basically almost picking him up like full court, right? And they're forcing the Raptors to use another ball handler by continuously attacking Lowry, because they understand that even though Marc Gasol is just going to, pass the ball around, and in many ways when everyone's scoring, he kind of becomes the main initiator on offense when you're on the other side of the court. Even though they know that, they 100% understand that if you want to limit the Raptors' success as a totality itself, you need to take Kyle Lowry out of the game. And that's what they were doing. They were expending a lot of energy and a lot of defensive resources into trying to force him to pass up the ball and, basically disrupt any play the Raptors could have set up just by making it uncomfortable for him to dribble. Now, this was actually pretty successful because the Bucks managed to go on a pretty, I think it's an 11-6 run or something like that. It was a double-digit run before Nick Nurse is finally forced to call a timeout. Raptors try to respond by getting, Marc Gasol involved early, and that's what I've always said. You want to get Gasol involved, early, because his best minutes, most likely on the offense, are only going to come in that first half. He's not going to get too many, shots to fall in the lane. I know this game was somewhat of an exception. He did have one good one. We'll get to that later. But for the most part, you really wanted to get Gasol going early. Unfortunately, he didn't. But yeah, it was just not the case for Gasol tonight on the three-point line. You can see he was 1 for 4. Now, he missed 3 threes, and he only took 1 in the fourth quarter. So, something else before I go to the second quarter that I noticed, Brogdon has been inserted into the starting lineup by Milwaukee. And this actually, I thought this personally was a smart decision. However, I didn't think it was necessary. I thought it paid off for them overall, I think, even though that the Bucks lost, because you weren't really getting production from Bledsoe and Chris Middleton. Now, obviously, Bledsoe had a better game, but you weren't going to know that, right? You needed another playmaker, another quick, agile ball handler to kind of give the Toronto defense, which was gotten really good the past couple of games, some trouble. And make no mistake, Brogdon sliced the Raptors up for about, I think, 2.5 quarters. He was special, like good. He was really good, and he was causing a lot of problems. But yeah, we go to the second quarter. So far, it seems that the bench has been really, really stepping up, and the starters in the second quarter, have been somewhat overwhelming. The bench has obviously done most of the scoring, and Kawhi is also looking a little bit better. He was not himself game 4, but he still managed to contribute tonight. Tonight was something else. But I also noticed that the Bucks are not overhelping on Kawhi this game, and they're continuing to focus on Lowry. You see, if you're the Bucks, you probably wanted to focus on Lowry last game when he actually was probably scoring-wise not at his best. He had the limp, he was a little bit off. But this game, they decided to not overhelp on Kawhi, and Kawhi is able to actually roam a little bit more freely, get his offense a little bit better. And with the 3-guard lineup, Lowry can actually pass the ball to another handler, which is Fred VanVleet. Right? Lowry's shooting a little bit off, but bottom line is he made some shots that mattered. And we've always known that Kyle Lowry is not supposed to be a primary scorer. His game 1 performance, like I said, it was an anomaly. You're not going to see that very often. He's going to, try to reach into the bag every once in a while, pull that out, but don't expect it to be a consistent thing every night. And tonight, he was good to the point where, you see, he used double figures. This is a very good game from Kyle Lowry. You look at his field goal percentage, even though you might think, man, 4 of 11 is complete dog shit. Listen. Kyle Lowry scoring above 12 points is a very good sign for the Raptors team, because you need some fucking offensive production from the guy, right? Especially since Marc Gasol isn't going to be consistently putting up double digits. In fact, you can expect the guy to have 7, right? So yeah, good game by Kyle Lowry. Very good second by the Raptors. Yeah, very good second quarter by the Raptors. They kind of they managed to grind out the point differential and actually tie Milwaukee. And I thought that was incredibly impressive, because I was a little bit worried that it was going to go into a bit of a blowout, especially when you have people like, Brogdon, Giannis, and Bledsoe, who are all on, in the first, well, I shouldn't say Giannis. Giannis seemed a little bit tilted after a couple of possessions, but Bledsoe and Brogdon, they were definitely cooking. So I expected to also see a bit more norm in the third quarter, and this is also where I need to credit Nick Nurse with a major decision that he decided to make this game that we started to see him make in the previous 2 games. So we go to the third quarter, and that decision, by the way, is with Danny Green. So we go into the third quarter, and I'm thinking to myself, why the hell is Danny Green still on? Get someone like Ibaka in, get Powell, for fuck's sake, right? I know Powell, he wasn't as good this game, but he still scored way more than Danny Green, and he was a better contributor. Danny Green was minus 17, for Christ's sake. Now, you could argue his defense is good, but you need some offense, and I think Powell has enough hustle to kind of take his minutes. And that's exactly what Nick Nurse was doing this game. He had a very, very tight leash on Danny Green. 16 minutes down from the 20-30 in the previous games. Nick Nurse has seen that, listen, Danny Green, you're here to fulfill a spot-up shooter JJ Redick role, play some defense, hustle for boards. If you can't do that, we're putting in Ibaka or Powell, who do either of those things right now better than you. And in this game, it seemed like Fred VanVleet took all of Danny Green's three-point shooting and just started raining it, because he was sensational. I have nothing. I don't have anything bad to say about Fred this game. This really, it shouldn't even be 7 of 9 from 3-point. It should be 8 of 9. The only reason why it's 7 of 9 is because he tried that buzzer beater from, I think, 35 feet out. I'm not gonna count that. He was absolutely sensational tonight. Good job, Fred. You know what? Good job, Fred. I shat on you so much. I'm not gonna do it, because you did nothing wrong. You played a fantastic game. You brought the 3-point shooting that was needed to steal a game in Milwaukee. Fred VanVleet hit 7 3-point shots, guys. That's huge for the Raptors. That's what kept them in the game for a lot of the time. That's what made it so that every time the Raptors tried to push that lead to 12, they weren't able to because Fred was just going to come back with a 3. Now, the maximum lead for the Bucks at one point was 14, but once you got into that third quarter, it was never the case anymore. Raptors are always hanging within 10 to 5. I also noticed that Nick Nurse is matching the minutes with Kawhi's minutes with Giannis's minutes, similar to how he did Marc Gasol with Joel Embiid. Having one player that can stop the opposing player's offense and make it incredibly uncomfortable for him. And this actually allows Kawhi to get a little bit of rest. And with Fred VanVleet's hot shooting, the Raptors are actually able to get some offense when Kawhi is off the floor. And the moment I saw that, I felt very comfortable about the direction this game was going. So we go to the fourth quarter, and the moment when Kawhi hits back-to-back step-back threes in Lopez's face, I'm like screaming in happiness. I'm just like, holy shit. The man came to play again tonight. And keep in mind, Kyle isn't even on the court during that initial stretch. It's just Fred VanVleet being trusted with ball handling duties. And the fact of the matter is, enough players from the Raptors are hitting threes that initial, pressure on on the point guard past the half court, it's no longer effective for the Bucks because now they have to worry about the 3-point line and trying to run guys off that line, and that's just not going to happen. Well, they did try. They did a pretty decent job. Siakam this game, I think, was cosplaying as Ibaka. His role in particular has really changed since the Philadelphia series. I think out of all the players on the roster, Siakam's the one that's had to adapt his game the most, I feel. Now, some of you might argue that's Norm. Some of you might argue that's VanVleet. But if you really look at Siakam and look at the box score and look at the game itself, he's really started to be more focused on defense than he is on offense. In the Philadelphia series, the man was easily averaging 20 on very efficient shooting, right? Even if you take out that game one superstar performance, he was reliably getting offense. Even though he was kind of being shut down by Joel, he was always looking to attack. Here, I'm not noticing Siakam's offense, albeit it's still very good. Not as good, but I'm not noticing his offense as much as I'm noticing his defense. He gets 4 blocks. That's like in the fourth quarter, my dude, the man gets 2 blocks, critical blocks. He is anchoring the defensive end, and I just can't help but think he's cosplaying as Ibaka right now because he's shooting pretty much as well, if not better than Ibaka from the field, and he's doing the defensive duties, getting those rebounds. Obviously, you still need Ibaka, but having Siakam be this kind of defensive anchor who will reliably get you points whenever it's open, it's a good feeling if you're the Toronto Raptors. Because now you can sub Ibaka and Siakam, switch them on and off, without having to worry so much about losing defensive production. Offense, maybe a little different thing, but, the lineup seems to have stabilized and become a lot more reliable overall. Continuing with the fourth, Gasol, I think, hits a big 3 after Milwaukee goes on a little bit of a run. And this is after Kawhi hits those back-to-back threes to put the Raptors up by, I think, 6 points. Milwaukee goes on a run, and then Nick Nurse calls a timeout. And immediately after, Gasol gets a 3. His only 3 of the night, good enough. Good enough, Mark. Good enough. You just needed to hit one. One, dude. Well, preferably hit more. But you know what? You played some decent defense. You defended the paint, which was very impressive tonight. The defense held up. Now, towards the end, I'm getting a little bit nervous, though, because a couple of whistles, a couple of events kind of go to stall the game out a little bit more. Brook Lopez has that big 3 to basically tie the game up. And what proceeds to happen within the next 3 or 4 minutes is a series of I found this to be interesting. That when the ball goes off Malcolm Brogdon's shin, them trying to foul Lowry and being unable to, Gasol missing a free throw, all of these things had my heart racing. I'm like, oh my God, are the Bucks gonna be able to actually tie this shit up? And needless to say, Toronto holds on, is able to make enough shots to win the day. Fred The bench has finally been resuscitated, which has allowed, the Raptors to get away with having two of their starters not have double-digit performances. And this is critical, critical, critical. Nick Nurse right now has an 8-man rotation. You look at someone like Milwaukee, what they're running. They got a lot more people. They can toss in a lot more people. They got 10 fucking players at least. They have more bench depth. Like, they got more players that they're willing to play, but it's not meaning as much because Toronto has a reliable tight 8-man rotation. And we saw this happen last year. Toronto knows what this feels like, guys. Being down 0-2, it was concerning. It definitely was. But Toronto has had the experience. And this is where it matters the most. Being able to get punched in the mouth and bounce right back. Being able to adapt. Toronto in the last 3 games has shown that they have learned. They have been battle-hardened, battle-tested, whatever you want to call it. They are prepared to win the next game and head to the NBA Finals. Final note. Kawhi assisted on 27 points. All 9 of his assists led to 3 points. Look to see Milwaukee, and they have to now. They're going to come with a blitz next game. They're going to come out hard and ready to go. Their backs are up against the wall. Toronto, close this out in 6. Okay? Because if you do, oh man. Oh, the ridicule. The Bucks in 6 meme. Oh, I'm going to have a field day if they do that. I'm going to have an absolute field day. And the media, Reddit, everybody is going to have a field day with that. But yeah, I expect the bench to continue playing well. Great win by Toronto. Great win. You have won in the opposing team's home. Some people might say this should be over already because of game 1. We're not going to think about that. We're going to think about game 6, and I will see you guys after tomorrow.